There is a woman in Genesis whose story is told almost entirely through her children's names. And if you pay attention to the names, you realize you are reading one of the saddest interior monologues in the whole of the Hebrew Bible. Her name is Leah. She is Jacob's first wife, the one he did not want, the one his uncle Laban substituted for Rachel under the veil of the wedding night. Jacob agreed to work 7 years for Rachel. He got Leah instead and had to work 7 more years for the wife he actually wanted. The text describes Leah with a phrase that is difficult to translate precisely. Her eyes were rak, which means either weak or tender or soft. Rachel is described as beautiful of form and beautiful of face. Leah is described by her eyes, which are something other than dazzling. She's the one who was, in the most visible way possible, not chosen. Today we read Leah's story with Donald Winnicott, who spent his career understanding what happens to the self that does not receive the environment it needs to fully become itself. Winnicott's concept of the holding environment, the responsive, attuned, consistent care that the infant needs from its primary caregiver in order to develop a genuine, stable, creative self, is at the core of everything he wrote. The good enough mother, as he called her, is not perfect. She makes mistakes, and she is sometimes unavailable, and she is sometimes preoccupied, but she is reliably there, reliably responsive enough, reliably able to return to the child after her own moments of absence or distraction. And in that reliability, the child develops what Winnicott calls the capacity to be, the ability to exist in one's own experience without needing to perform for others, without needing to manage the environment, without needing to be constantly reassured of one's own reality. The child who does not receive adequate holding develops a different kind of self. Winnicott called it the false self, the self that is organized not around genuine experience, but around the management of the environment. The false self learns very quickly what the environment requires and provides it in order to survive. It is compliant. It is responsive to the needs of others. It protects the true self by never exposing it. But the cost is profound. The person who lives primarily through the false self is never quite real, never quite present, never quite at home in their own experience. Leah builds her entire existence around the hope of being held, and the holding never comes. The story of Leah's children is in Genesis 29 and 30. She bears Jacob 4 sons in succession, and the names she gives them carry the record of her interior life with a precision that breaks the heart. The first son, Reuben, because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. She bears Jacob 4 sons in succession, and the names she gives them carry the record of her interior life with a precision that breaks the heart. The first son, Reuben, because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. The second, Shimon, because the Lord heard that I am not loved. He gave me this one too. The third, Levi, now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. And the fourth, Judah, this time I will praise the Lord. 3 children given in the hope of love, and with the fourth she releases the expectation. The progression is painful. Reuben, God has seen my misery, the acknowledgement of pain, and the hope that the child will translate the divine seeing into Jacob's seeing. Shimon, God heard that I am not loved, the plain statement of the truth. Levi, now at last, the persistence of hope despite the evidence. And then Yehudah, this time I will praise the Lord, with no mention of Jacob, no claim of his love, just gratitude to God. Winnicott would read this progression as a slow, agonizing attempt to find a substitute holding environment when the primary one has failed. Leah is trying, through childbearing, to create the condition of being genuinely seen and valued by the person whose seeing and valuing she most needs. Each child is, in a psychological sense, an attempt to make Jacob's love available. And each time it does not work, not because the children are unloved, but because what Leah needs cannot be given through them. What Winnicott observed in clinical practice was that the person deprived of genuine holding tends towards one of two compensatory strategies. The first is the false self described previously, the self that performs adequacy and responsiveness for the environment without ever being genuinely present. The second, less common but deeply human, is the strategy of attempting to create the missing environment through the relationship with others, to find in a partner, a friend, a child, the holding that was absent in the formative relationship. Leah's strategy is the second. She is trying to produce, through the mechanism of childbearing and the social obligation it creates, the love that Jacob owes her but cannot give. Each son is a new claim. Each name is a new hope. Each hope, as the names reveal, is followed by the same non-arrival. And yet, and this is what I find most remarkable about Leah's story, she does not collapse. She keeps going. The text does not describe Leah as broken nor dysfunctional. She is a mother. She is running a household. She is in competition, bitterly, with her sister Rachel. She is a participant in the life of the family of Jacob. She lives, she manages, she gets on. Winnicott would say, this is the false self doing its work. Leah has learned, early and thoroughly, how to function without the environment she needs. She has built a self that can survive without being genuinely held. It costs her something that the text cannot name and that she cannot quite name either, except in the names of her children. The cruelty at the center of the story is structural. It is not that Jacob is a monster. He is capable of love. His love for Rachel is one of the most celebrated loves in the Bible. He worked 14 years for her. But he was given Leah by deception, and the deception locked both of them into a relationship that neither chose in the way that genuine relationship requires choosing. Leah knows from the first morning after the wedding that she is the unwanted one. She knows it in every subsequent morning. She knows it in the gap between how Jacob moves through the tent with Rachel and how he comes to her. She knows it with the knowledge that it is in the body before it is in the mind. And the question that Winnicott would ask, quietly, carefully, as he always asked his most important questions, is what does a person do with a knowledge like that? How does the self that knows it is not chosen go on? The answer in Leah's case, it gives praise. With the fourth son, Judah, the one from whose line the whole subsequent story of Israel eventually descends. She steps out of the economy of Jacob's love and into something else. This time I will praise the Lord. Not, now surely Jacob will love me. Just praise. This is not resignation. It is not the suppression of the longing. It is the discovery, after 3 attempts, of a different ground for existence. The holding she could not receive from Jacob, she begins to find in a relationship to God that is no longer instrumental, not used to produce Jacob's love, but simply real, simply her own. Winnicott called the deepest form of healing the recovery of the capacity to be, the ability to exist in one's own experience, even an experience of pain, without needing to manage or perform or manufacture the environment into providing what is needed. Leah's fourth son is, perhaps, the moment when she begins to find that capacity. She names him Judah. She praises.